Hello, this is Karen Dudek-Brannan, and I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video. I'm so happy to have you here. Now, if you're watching this, I imagine you might have a caseload with students who have language impairments that cause them huge difficulties in school or in their day-to-day lives. And I'm also willing to guess that you know vocabulary is a huge area of struggle for these students. But the problem is that there are so many different words that kids need to know, and there's just not enough hours in the day to get to them all. We know we're supposed to align therapy with curriculum and help students in school, but sometimes it can be tricky to figure out how to make that happen because there's just so much content to cover. So, if you've experienced this problem, you're in the right place because I'm about to share some facts and a process you can use to provide clarity so you know the most important concepts to hit in your therapy time. And I have a free resource for you that will help you to implement this process easily and save you tons of time.
So let's get to it. You're here because you want to build your students' vocabulary skills so they can do well in school. And there are some really important statistics that will help you to understand how this works. First, most typically developing children without disabilities who are in good learning environments can learn between 3,000 to 5,000 words per year. That equals 8 to 12 words per day. And many of these words aren't taught directly. Rather, kids learn to pick up on information through exposure. So, children with well developed vocabularies learn to teach themselves, which is how this is possible, which is pretty amazing when you think about it. Now, let's talk about the children that typically end up on our caseloads. This could include kids with diagnosed disabilities or even children who fall in the at risk category due to their environment or medical history. So these children may only learn between 300 and 900 words per year, which ends up being only 1 to 3 words per day. It's kind of a snowball effect because they don't have the background knowledge and the skills to learn new words effectively on their own as compared to their peers. So this means that we really have our work cut out for us. And it can be really overwhelming to think about how we can possibly close this gap over time with the little time we have with our students.
If you're anything like me, you might have a ton of questions going through your mind after hearing these statistics. But one thing that seems to come up the most often is the question of what words do I choose? We know that we should incorporate vocabulary into our therapy, whether we teach it directly or just provide exposure. But with the gaps our students have, we need to figure out how to make every second we have with them count, which means we need to emphasize the concepts that provide the greatest impact on our students' overall learning. There's two frameworks that can help us choose the right content. The first one was outlined by Longo and Curtis. These authors recommended that we use two criteria for choosing target words. The first criteria is that we should be able to answer this question: does the word occur frequently in written texts and classroom discussions? So, when we're teaching words, we want to think about what words are common in the child's environment. Some words may be difficult for students, but they aren't as much of a priority for us to teach because kids only encounter them every so often, such as within specific content units or situations. So it's more important for us to teach difficult words that happen more frequently because knowing those words will be a lot more functional. The second question is: will learning the word advance conceptual understanding of more difficult words? So, in other words, we want the word not only to occur often, but it should also be a word that helps students learn more advanced skills and concepts.
So let me give you some examples of words that would meet both of Longo and Curtis's criteria. So the word summarize, this word occurs often, and many of our students don't really understand what it means or struggle to do it. So if we work on getting our students to understand this concept and learn to do it, this could open up many new learning opportunities because the student would learn more information in the process of summarizing. Same goes for words like compare or contrast. These come up a lot on tests or just across many different learning environments in school. So, if a student learns what it means to compare and contrast and learns to do it, they could, in theory, perform these tasks by comparing and contrasting more difficult words, which could build their vocabulary even further. So that's why these are examples of words that meet both criteria, and that's why these type of words have a higher impact on our students' learning. So that's framework number one. The second framework involves the three tiers of vocabulary, which was described by Isabel Beck, Margaret McEwen, and Linda Kukin in their book Bringing Words to Life. So they explained vocabulary by dividing words into three tiers. The first one, tier one, would include words that aren't very difficult for students because they happen in everyday conversation and that are pretty easy for most kids to grasp and use effectively. So, examples of tier one words could include clock, pencil, or walk. So, just those everyday words that most kids can use pretty well. So, tier two words tend to be difficult for students, and they also tend to occur across lots of different academic contexts, like in written texts, in academic discussions. So, this could include words like evaluate, evidence, or identify. So, again, they occur across a lot of different academic subjects, and they're difficult for kids. So, tier three words are also difficult and they are also found across academic settings, but they're not as frequent as tier two words because they're specific to content area units or niche topics. So, examples of tier three words might be isotope, monarchy, or hydrogen. You can see that these are specific to science or social studies. So, they are similar to tier two in that they're challenging, but they don't occur as often. So, usually for teachers, they might spend time teaching tier two words during their English and language arts units, and they also might spend time teaching tier three words during the content areas. So, this framework is helpful because it gives us an idea about how words are organized, but it leaves a lot of unanswered questions from an SLP standpoint because we don't have 40 minutes a day of ELA time plus content areas to spend working with our students like teachers do. And we operate from a different system. We need to make our time more individualized while teachers are focused on curriculum and standards and grade level expectations. So these two frameworks, both from Longo and Curtis and both Beck et al., are helpful, but we really need some more information. So that's why I recommend layering these two frameworks together to make it apply to us as SLPs. So let me show you how we do that. So first, we consider our tier one, tier two, and tier three words. Then we ask ourselves the questions Longo and Curtis proposed to see how these categories of words measure up. So the first question was whether or not words occur frequently in texts or class discussions. So for tier one, we can say yes, they do occur frequently. For tier two, we can also say yes. For tier three words, we typically can't say yes because these words are content unit specific. So now we move on to the next question. So, will learning the word advance understanding of more difficult words? So, for tier one, we usually can't say yes for this category of words because most children already know these words. So, we're really not advancing their understanding that much. For tier two, because these words are difficult, we can usually say yes. The same thing applies for tier three. We can also say yes because content area words are usually unfamiliar to students the first time they encounter them in school. So when you look at this as a whole, you can see that because we have a limited amount of time to spend on vocabulary, Our highest priority for therapy would be tier 2 words because for most students, they would meet both of Longo and Curtis's criteria. So, because we have a limited amount of time, we need to get the biggest bang for our buck and focus on words that will give us the highest impact. So these frameworks provide a lot of clarity. Yet now we come to another roadblock, which is how do we find the time to find these tier 2 words? Because we need to know what vocabulary we should be working on for each grade level. So ideally, you could go through texts or talk to teachers to get words. And I do recommend doing this. But let's be honest, you don't have time to do that all the time. So instead of recommending that you immediately spend time digging around finding words, I'm going to give you a set of word lists and printable flashcards that are ready to use. So you can start incorporating tier 2 words into your therapy using a free ebook I've created for you. You can always add to your list of words later, but this will enable you to get started with these skills right away. Now, I've experienced this problem firsthand because I've been an SLP working with the school age population since 2004. So I've spent a lot of time studying grade level materials and trying to figure out what words have the greatest impact. And what I've done during this time is go through tons of curricular word lists and texts, and eventually, I came across the Harcourt reading series that actually had Beck, McCune, and Kukin, the ones that came up with the three tiers of vocabulary framework, as contributing authors. So, using this series and other similar materials as a reference, I've created this free ebook that has 30 different tier 2 words. So there's 10 nouns, 10 verbs, and 10 adjectives, all of which are Common Core aligned for students in early elementary school. And I've created this free ebook for SLPs called 30 Tier 2 Words for Language Therapy. So the words in this book are most appropriate for students in first through third grade. And although you could probably stretch this to kindergarten or later elementary, depending on your student's ability. Now, of course, you'll eventually need to add to this list, but this resource gives you word lists and printable flashcards that you can use to have a solid starting point so you can get going immediately. So, as I said before, this ebook is free for members of my mailing list. So, all you need to do to get it is click the button below to sign up, and I'll send you the free download. So, I hope that this saves you tons of time and helps you get started. And I'd love to have you join me in my mission to create better language skills and build word knowledge in school age kids. In addition to this free download, when you join my mailing list, I'll also send you other resources on a regular basis similar to this one. So all you need to do is click the button below to sign up. Thanks again for stopping by to watch the video. I hope this was helpful to you.